All right, my dear fellow listeners and viewers, good evening once again, and welcome to another edition of the Dr. Narine Dat Show. For those of you who've tuned into us in the past, will know exactly what to do here. The whole idea of the Dr. Narine Dat Show is to create a safe space for positive energy and mutual respect. I want to remind you that there are a few different ways to listen to us. You can listen to us on a regular dial, that's the radio, 102.7 CKMS FM. You can listen to us on Rogers digital cable as well, for those of you who have the Rogers digital box. And of course, we're also live streaming our show here, so by all means, take the opportunity to share a page. Tonight's show is a little bit different. We don't have a guest here with us, and it is intentional. It is intentional in the sense that, one, first of all, I want to acknowledge the fact that Guyana is celebrating its 60th independence anniversary. So lots of stuff happening there, as you can see. I kind of wear a shirt that looks like the Guyana flag, just to kind of make a present there in that sense. Even though we have had lots of celebration here in Canada and obviously in Guyana, people are celebrating like crazy in a good way, that is, in the States and whatnot. That's great. But the main purpose of me today is to really make my contribution. And my contribution today is to talk a little bit about mental health as it relates to social media. That's right. So I will encourage you to kind of engage and participate in ways that you see fitting for you as well too. And so many of you will know that all of us, I guess, should be at a point now, where we can accept that we live in a digital world, right? That's the reality. However, it can affect people in different ways, right? If it's not used, accordingly and properly and things of that sort. And so basically, that's one of the reasons I want to talk a little bit about mental health and social media. As many of you will know, social media has become a major part of everyday life. There's no question about that, where it shapes, how people communicate, right? We see that all the time, how we learn, work and connect with other folks as well too, right? While social media, however, can offer many positive benefits, it can also significantly affect mental health and people's emotional well-being, right? And so that's one of the reasons I want to talk a little bit about that. There are two things you can expect here this evening. Obviously, I will share with you some of the positive things and the good things about social media itself, right? I think it's so important for us to start off that way. And so I will get to the bottom of it, or I will get to it quick here, because I want to be mindful that we live in a fast-paced world and people have other obligations and so forth. And so the good thing about social media, or the positive pieces about social media, is that it helps people stay connected with family and friends. And I can tell you, for that, it does magic, because myself included, I am very connected, and very involved with, the people that I grew up with, school, people in Guyana, all of these types of things. People live, far away, let me put it that way. But because of social media, we are able to stay connected, exchange ideas and things of that sort. So it works really well that way. I'm sure many of you, are using social media for that purpose, which is great. It also, if you use it correctly, it also creates support in terms of network and online communities, meaning that we are not only kind of just connecting with people who we can reach in terms of driving and get there, walking, get there, and so forth. We can create different kind of community, right? all over the world. So it works really well that way. And for me, it works perfectly that way because apart from the people in my circle that I can reach and I can see face to face in person per se, it apart from that, I also have, people that I can connect with virtually and things like that sort of. Many of you will know you can complete the whole degree virtually as well too, right? So it works really, really well that way. And because of social media, we can also increase the awareness about mental health issues itself, exactly what we're doing right now, right? Not all of us are in person right now, seeing each other right now, but we are able to kind of connect in this way. And we can talk about some of those issues and challenges and the good things and things of that sort. So that's another good thing about it. We can also use social media, to promote educational resources and inspiration and so forth. And that's one reason you'll see I do some of those pieces. We all have our niche, we all have our passion, and we all have a purpose, right? And so people use social media in ways that works for them, right? Usually people kind of figure out, what is it that they're really good at and things of that sort, and they'll kind of find a way to kind of niche it, market it, and kind of put it out there, and social media is really good for that. Leanne is a very perfect example, by the way, who I believe is watching right now. Leanne found his niche, and he, as you would know, has lots of followers, and he's good in what he does and things of that sort. And despite, their challenges, which I'll talk about as well too, Leanne has a really good way to kind of stay focused and kind of move forward, right? Um, so those are all good pieces. And obviously, social media also offers a sense of belonging, especially for isolated individual. Keep in mind, not everybody live with a family. Not everybody has, children. Not everybody has a spouse. Not everybody has parents. Some people live on their own, which is totally fine. And because of social media, people can connect with other folks. So it kind of remove you from that isolation in that sense. So these are all good things about social media. And I'll repeat them, for you very, very quickly for those of you who may have just tuned in. The good thing about social media is that it really gives you the opportunity to stay connected with other people, right? Friends, family, and whatnot. It gets you out of that isolation if you're able to use it. There's your advantage. People can use it to kind of access educational resources or provide educational resources as well too, and obviously increasing the awareness of mental health itself, exactly what we're doing right now. And, for the people who are really into it, they can create a sense of network as well to in different areas. So that way they're not losing out from any sort of opportunities. So folks, for those of you who just tuned in, we're talking about mental health and social media. And so I kind of, lay out a few pieces in terms of the good reasons why, we use social media and how it can benefit us. Having said that, though, for those of you who are really, really active, like myself and many, many other people, social media can be a challenge as well too, and a risk to people's mental health. That I can tell you with confidence, for sure. And so, for example, it can cause anxiety and depression, right? And I'll tell you why. And that because sometimes people constantly, compare themselves with other people based on their lifestyle, their achievements, their appearance, and all of these types of things. Because people see what's happening, right? So people will see people's accomplishment. People will, see how people look physically and all of these types of things, even though they may not look like that in real. And sometimes people are kind of saying to themselves, my goodness, like I'm behind here, right? Why is it that this person is doing so well? Not realizing that everybody move at their own pace, right? So that's one damaging thing about social media. When we start to go that road where we are kind of, um, comparing stuff with other people. So that's one dangerous thing. So you don't want to do that, right? So if you are one of those that use social media, it's totally fine. But do not compare yourself with other people. Do know that all of us kind of move at our own pace. All right. Yeah. And I can see that folks are starting to kind of make some comment here as well too, which I probably will read. Ken Ramprasad, who has his own talk show, and we've had him here as well too. He's saying that the misuse of Facebook negativity, absolutely. For some reason, because people have access to phone and internet and so forth, and because it's so easy, people feel that they have an obligation to kind of, get their say there and so forth, which is a very dangerous thing. So without any question, as per research, social media can cause anxiety. And as I mentioned, it only causes anxiety if you kind of allow it to, meaning that if you start to see other people's success and see how other people look physically and all of that, and you start to compare yourself with them. Other than that, you'll be fine. Um, so that's one thing. So that another issue with social media too, as it relates to mental health, is that exactly what Ken Ramprasad just said. Negative online interactions can increase stress, emotional trauma, and social withdrawal, especially among youth and young adults. So think about that for a second, right? And I'll repeat it to you so that you kind of get it. Cyberbullying, right, and online harassment. That's a big thing when it comes to social media, right? And definitely it has a negative impact, right, in terms of um, people become more stressful, they're emotionally trauma, and we all have seen it, right? We all have seen it where people are actually arguing and fighting back and forth, all of these types of things, which is unhealthy not only for themselves, but for the people who are watching and seeing these things. And study shows that in particular, it affects younger folks, right? The youth and the young adults. Let me see here. Yeah. Yes, and so another way social media can affect folks mentally is fear of missing out, right? And the fear of missing out meaning that, seeing others constantly posting social media activities or successes, as I mentioned, may create pressure, right? To keep up or feeling, a sense, feeling that you're being excluded in that sense, right? So keep in mind, generally speaking, as all of you will know, generally speaking, people post their successes, people post all the good things. Very, very normal. That's what we showcase, right? People wouldn't, post, all the bad things or all negative things or all the heavy loads that's happening in their life. And they shouldn't, by the way. Right? And so sometimes people feel pressure because let's say you graduated. This is just one example. Let's say you graduated, you know, um, I don't know, 5 years ago, and you're seeing one of your friends, for example, former classmate, is in your mind, you're seeing them doing well, they're progressing, they have all the material things in life, they're owning a home, they have their dream job and all of that. And let's say for some reason, when you look at yourself, you feel as if you're a little bit behind. Generally speaking, according to study, people feel a little bit pressure, thinking that, oh my goodness, they're not moving forward, they're behind and so forth. And that comes back to what I said earlier. If people start to compare themselves um, with other folks, they will, and they think along that line, it's a very dangerous thing, right? So that's what I meant when I said fear of missing out, right? And if you folks are um, have anything similar that you would like to comment on, please, by all means, do that. Let me take a quick pause though and say hello to a few people here. Let me say hello to Stella. Thank you so much. And thank you for always engaging with all the initiatives that I do. Very much appreciate it. Baby, I want to give a special hello to you. Azjad, a community business partner who has been doing so much for a long time through the Amal Foundation. Thanks for taking a sneak peek, and hopefully you continue to have the motivation to continue the great work you're doing. Salam. Salim, I hope I'm saying the name correctly here. Thanks for taking a sneak peek. And so today, I've kind of intentionally set aside today to one, first of all, acknowledge that we are celebrating the Guyana 60th um, independence anniversary. That's the Diamond Jubilee celebration, so to speak. Lots of celebration happening all over the place. Today I've chosen not to have a guest per se, because my contribution is talk about the little bit about social media and how it affects us or how it is related to mental health overall. Because if you think about it, even politicians and so forth, you can see people go back and forth and they kind of express themselves sometimes not in the right manner, and it could cause a lot of confusion, a lot of extra stress on people. No different with the situation with Venezuela and Guyana and whatnot. All of those things add additional stress to the everyday citizen. And so that's one reason I want to talk about social media as it relates to mental health. And so earlier I talked about all the good things about social media, because if you really use it towards your advantage, it is a beautiful thing. I use it towards my advantage. But you always have to be prepared for the backlash as well too, because you never know when things can go wrong, or when people view things a little different, or when their feedback or opinion might not align with yours and things of that sort, right? Another issue with social media is addiction and overuse, right? So basically, as you know, many people struggle to disconnect from social media, leading to reduced productivity, emotional exhaustion, and difficulty being present in real life relationships, right? So basically, what I'm trying to say here is that some people can be addicted, addicted in a sense that they have difficulties to be away from it. Um, and so even if, they're at some sort of family function, things of that sort, they have difficulties removing themselves from social media because they're so, attached to that, right? Using anything, I always say to folks, is totally fine. Abusing it, it's a real problem. It's a real concern, right? And I think we all have been there in different ways. And some of us, it's our job. For some people, it's their job. So there are exceptions as well too, right? So there people be there. That's their job. If they're not on there, then they're not doing their job. So it's two different things, right? And so for those of you who are watching, I think the very first place to start, first of all, don't misunderstand me in any shape or form. Social media is a beautiful thing. And we have to accept the fact that we don't live in a digital world, but we have to be mindful that to have a little bit of a balance as well too. So if I were you, before you discipline anybody, let's say you have kids and whatnot, or even tell anybody anything, I think the very first place to start is in the mirror, really, to kind of look to check in with ourselves and see how much time, are we actually spending on social media? Is it for productive work? Right? I think those are questions we can ask ourselves. If it's productive work, I wouldn't even bother about it. But if it's people just scrolling for the sake of scrolling, or kind of looking for an opportunity to kind of, make negative comments towards other people posts and so forth, then that's a real problem too, right? So, so that's something to kind of keep in mind. So you know what? So because this is a freestyle show here, because live show, I'm assuming Ken Rampasard is telling me he is congratulating me on my award. And because of that, this is just for you, Ken. I'm gonna show you the award actually. So basically, so this is the one of the awards I received recently. This one is from the Guyana Independence Committee here in Canada. And so basically 6 people in Canada were honored, and I'm one of the 6 people. And that's one of the reasons you see me wearing my Guyana short and so forth. I think first of all, there's always that debate and sometimes confusion, among Guyanese and so forth, where people are saying, well, look, the people in the States and Canada and whatnot, they seems to want to tell us what to do, meaning the people in Guyana and so forth. But one thing I can tell you with confidence is that the people in the Guyana diaspora in Canada and the States and whatnot, they have contributed so much to the Guyanese people. And at the end of the day, regardless of what path our life take, and regardless of how settled we are here, the bottom line is we are Guyanese. Our journey starts there. Exactly what I put in my book, Rising Above. I started off the book talking about my journey growing up in Berbice, Guyana, and all of that. So it is, um, we are always connected there, even though we have different lifestyle. And even though, like myself, for example, I live most of my life here, Guyana will always be part of us. And this has nothing to do with the continuous development of Guyana. This has to do with my personal track record over the years, right? So I just want to make that clear because sometimes people think that, okay, Guyana is kind of booming in its own way, and maybe we want to get a piece of the pie. Not Narine, that I can tell you for sure. If anything at all, I'm more interested in kind of giving and there, just like what Ken Rampersad does. He keep going back to Guyana and he serves based on the resources he has at hand and things of that sort. Um, So anyway, so I don't want to get sidetracked here. So folks, for those of you who are watching, I want to remind you that you're watching and listening the Dr. Narine Dat Show. Today, I have chosen to talk about social media and how it's connected to mental health in good and bad ways. And this is my little contribution as we celebrate the Guyana independence. We have done celebration in terms of the dancing and the award celebration and all of that, but I felt that we have to come back to reality because at the end of the day, everybody's suffering from something, whether that be depression, whether that be general, stress and whatnot. And so I think it's important for us to be open and acknowledge the fact that because of social media, yes, a lot of good things, happen to us in different ways because things are moving fast. And if we're able to keep up with the pace, we can achieve and do well. But there's also that side effect if we are misusing the social media and things of that sort, as I was kind of mentioning. Another issue or another downside to the social media piece is the mental health itself and the self-image, right? So keep in mind, social media life is a whole different life, right? And so, for example, many people will use social media filters. It's not a crime per se. It is not prohibited. As far as I know, it's not prohibited. It's, people use it as they see fit and things of that sort. The issue with that is people are looking at it. And sometimes people do not know the difference, right? Especially younger people. They just see this fancy, shiny, person kind of thing. And people want to be like that, right? And so if people are not comfortable with themselves, like those things definitely can affect the younger folks for sure. But everybody wants to be that way, right? Oh my goodness. So I should acknowledge one or two people here. Yeah, so folks, as you know, you're watching or listening to Dr. Narine Dat Show, and I'm talking about mental health and its relationship with social media, right? We all have seen so many things happening. But I want to acknowledge a couple things here, you know, for folks who are watching here. So John from Queens, it's saying that I have very serious anxiety in which I now take those tools to try to help. So thanks for openly sharing that with us, John. I think it goes to show that these are real things, and but sometimes we don't talk about it, and the fact that you openly share this here, it's a beautiful thing because one thing I'm gonna show you, John, there are many people out there going through the same thing, and so yeah, I appreciate all of you folks kind of congratulating me here. Like I wasn't thinking of all of this, so you guys are kind of going above and beyond here, which I appreciate. Um, and a lot of times too, keep in mind, a lot of times people, now not everybody has people in their circle and whatnot. And so they kind of rely on that social media to kind of go there to feel a sense of comfort as well too. And they're not realizing how much it's affecting them, or sometimes they don't realize how they're putting themselves in more of a dangerous situation without realizing it. That's them kind of operating in a blind spot, so to speak, right? So on that note, though, I want folks to know that there are healthy ways for us to manage this whole social media thing where it wouldn't affect us mentally. Because at the end of the day, there's only so much we can do in the day, right? And we all have different lifestyle. We all have different journeys in life. We all are different places. Myself, for example, I have a professional job, very much engaged in the community, which I love, by the way. So it's not an issue for me. I have three children, all of this other thing, and many of you can relate to all of that. And so there's only so much we can do, and we try to keep up with the digital world. We try to maintain things. We try to stay up to date and so forth. It can be hard to stay on top of it all. But at the end of it all, if we try to do all of that, at the end of it all, it will drain people out. And it will affect them mentally. There's no question about that. There's no way you and I will be able to keep up with everything that is expected of us, right? And so there are a couple recommendation, or there are a few recommendation I have for you here in terms of what you can do to kind of manage your usage when it comes to social media. And so the very first thing I recommend is to really take regular breaks from the screen. So make it a habit to take regular breaks. Trust me on this one. If you shut your phone off, or at least, turn the volume down and go for a walk without looking at your screen and or answering, any call or whatever the case may be, that is fine. It's going to be there for you, right? Sometimes we have that tendency to kind of wanting to respond right away, want to check as soon as we hear that ding, we want to know what's going on. And that's one of the reasons I always encourage folks to set aside time for folks to check their emails, or everything, everything else in between. So if people want to check thing first thing in the morning, you check it first thing in the morning. Maybe later on in the day in between, you can do that, and you kind of, you structure things along. So that way you can continue on with your life. You can stay up to date as to what's happening in the real world, right? Because we all use it, we all use social media, but we want to make sure we use it in a way where it wouldn't affect us at all, kind of thing. Because once we get hooked, then it's hard to be away. And so don't misunderstand in any shape or form. Social media is a good thing, but you want to have that balance to make sure that it doesn't affect relationship in terms of when you're with people. It doesn't affect you, kind of thing, right? That's the purpose of all of it. And so another thing I will encourage you to do or consider, you wouldn't be able to do all of this because this is a lot of stuff, but you want to consider limit your daily social media usage, kind of what I mentioned to you. So instead of checking constantly, as soon as you hear a ding, you want to set aside some time to kind of just be in it, monitor it, right? And then continue on with your daily business, so to speak. Good. And I can see good feedback here. Somebody's saying, Uma Singh is saying, I don't let the phone take over my life. That is excellent. Yeah. I want to give a special hello, by the way, while I'm here. Keep in mind, this is just a free self chat here. I want to give a special hello to Uma Prasad, watching all the way, I believe, from California. California. We are both former classmates. Thank you for taking a sneak peek here. Pat Dan Raj, thank you for your comment. Thank you for taking a sneak peek. Um, yeah, for sure, of course. And I like what people are saying. Of course, people want to know what's happening. That's important. And I think it's so nice that we have that. And that's one of the reasons our vice president, and former president, Bharat Jagdev said that everyone who has a phone is a reporter. And he brought up a good point, right? But we want to be mindful that we are not allowing it to kind of take over all the other stuff. Kind of what you folks are kind of saying there, which is great. So these are things you can do to kind of manage it in a healthy way. And as I was mentioning, you want to make sure that you are following only the positive and uplifting content. If I can give you one advice, and if you can walk away with one thing here today, the fact that you are spending the time to listen and to kind of participate into something as such, if you can walk away with one knowledge here today or one thing, one takeaway, I hope it's this one, and that is to try your very best to follow positive content, right? And content that's going to uplift you, right? So if you're Hindu, follow good content along that line. If you're Muslim, follow content that's going to kind of lead you to your religion, for example, those types of things. Anything that's motivating with that will allow you to, to kind of grow, professionally and personally and all and spiritually and all these types of things. Not that we are discourage you from watching anything for entertainment. That's not what I'm talking about here. Something for a little laugh and so forth is totally fine. There are comedy related kind of content. But anything that's gonna bring somebody down, anything that's gonna, bring down, a woman, for example, and things of that sort, you want to refrain from sharing and participating and commenting and all of that. Because it's not good for you, it's not good for the individual, it's not good for the community, it's not good for society and things like that. So if I were you, you want to try your best to refrain from all of that. Right? The people that are watching, listening right now, I know many of you, by the way, you folks are regular supporters and so forth. You folks are very smart people. And so you have that ability to do that. Right? So don't get caught up into the unnecessary pieces. And another thing I will encourage you when it comes to the healthy social media usage is never compare yourself with other people. I kind of mentioned this at the earlier part because nobody will be like you and you cannot be like somebody else. There's only one Narayan, for example. And as long as you're not comparing yourself with other people, you will always win, right? Because if you do something, a little bit better today than you did yesterday, it means that you win and you're becoming a better version of you. And you folks know all of this, but I'm just kind of putting it in one package here. Um, and so the minute we start to compare and kind of say, oh my goodness, how come those people have that and we don't? And so forth, that's the biggest mistake we're making. If we use that in a different kind of way, though, and we use it as a motivator for ourselves, maybe that might be a little bit different, motivate you to kind of get back on track. Because sometimes, things happen in our lives, we're not as motivated like we used to be. Maybe we go through some challenging time or downfall, things of that sort. And so we might not be in a, in that frame of mind, or we might not be ready for certain things. And so sometimes looking at certain things might kind of give us that push. So if you use certain things towards your advantage, that's a whole different story. But never compare yourself with other people at all, which is difficult to do, but very it is doable, right? And once you learn of that, it is irrelevant as to what's happening out there. It is irrelevant as to what people are achieving and what they're gaining and whatnot. Um, because you really have to focus on your own journey, your own successes and things of that sort, because that's all should matter. Because once you are in a good place in life, once you're happy and content and so forth, it's much easier to give a lending hand, right? Another suggestion I'll give to you from a therapeutic type of, from a therapeutic lens, so to speak, is to always practice, mindfulness and self-awareness. And do that, you can do that online as well too. So because when you sign in that phone, right, you will usually all the negative things will pop in first, or all the popular things will pop up first. But you want to be mindful, of what you're looking at, what you are observing, and things of that sort. And keep in mind, not everything you see in social media is true, by the way, right? So something to keep in mind. Not everything you see in social media is true. Social media, it's the whole different world, right? It's a whole different world. None of us will be able to keep up with that social media world, right? We still have to take control of it and use it towards our advantage. Let me give a special hello to Pandit Joe Jagla. Thank you, Pandit Joe Jagla, for taking a sneak peek. sneak peek. I managed to briefly meet with you during the I guess the diaspora engagement. So that was kind of nice that we were able to briefly meet. So thank you for taking the sneak peek. I hope you are doing well. Um, Samdai, thank you for taking a sneak peek here as well. And so, folks, normally we will have a guest. We'll talk about different topics. We talk about so many different things. It's kind of open kind of thing. But today, as I said to you, because this is the this is the Ghana Independence Weekend, so to speak. We're going to celebrating its 60th independence anniversary, which is the Diamond Jubilee celebration. I wanted to kind of connect all of that in so many different ways, but I also want to make my contribution. We all have different skill sets and talent. There's so many different shows and so stuff happening. People are dancing and drinking and singing and so forth because that's their talent and that's how Guyanese celebrate. But I also want to be realistic and kind of make my contribution based on my skill set um, as it relates to kind of mental health and social media and all of that and tie it together and kind of share with folks some of the really good things when it comes to social media, as long as we use it towards our advantage and we follow along things accordingly, but also being mindful that it can be mentally draining if not used properly and accordingly, right? And the other advice, I'll give you here, if for some reason, you feel that things get so bad that it's affecting you to the point that you cannot function and it's kind of, affecting you being in, your relationship, whether that be, in your own circle or otherwise and whatnot. Honestly, I will recommend seeing a professional person to talk it through to make sure that you get that looked at. Because if you don't, it really will drain you out, right? Hopefully it doesn't get to that point. You folks are smart people, right? Hopefully you can manage all of this that I share. But if it gets to that point, you want to make sure that you're not you want to make sure that you're not allowing yourself really to get into that mess, right? And so I'm going to basically acknowledge or say hello to a few people more, and we'll kind of wrap it up because I just wanted to make sure I come on here to make my contribution here as we celebrate Guyana independence. Um, and again, there are different ways to kind of do it. And I know the food and everything else, but I wanted to kind of bring this to people's attention. So you continue to use social media because I use it in a big way and so forth. But being mindful that if we get too caught up with it, with all the noises around it, it can affect us mentally for sure. All right. So what I'll do though, okay, so let me see something very quickly here. Uh, I want to give a special hello to Bobby Jailal, and I want to thank you for being very engaging, by the way, with my content, which I appreciate. Uh, Sahid, thank you so much. And I hope, is anybody, how are you folks celebrating? I should ask you guys, by the way, for the folks who are watching and listening right now, how are you guys celebrating the Guyana independence? I mean, there are a lot of things happening here, at least in my area where I live. I live in Kitchener, Ontario, Canada, for those of you who live out of the area. Mainly a lot of stuff happening in the Toronto GT area. But how are you guys celebrating? Does it mean anything to you guys at all? This is a very special one. The fact that it is a Diamond Jubilee celebration, but also the fact that Guyana is in the position it is right now, I think it makes it even more special. I would love to hear from you guys. How are you guys celebrating this Guyana independence? Anything in particular you folks have? And in the meantime, what I'll do, I will finish with, as you folks know as well, music is a big thing. So I will feature, I will kind of wrap up with some folk song, so to speak. And then we'll kind of wrap it up that way. So let me see what folks are saying here. Yeah, yeah. That's good. So good to know. So Ken is saying that he will be attending one of the flag raising ceremony. We had one here yesterday. We had one in Brampton. I have to say that the mayor in Brampton, not that I want to promote or kind of promote anyone's initiative, but Patrick Burrong, I have to give him credit actually. The current mayor of Brampton, he actually he really he's very engaging with the guy in his community. It shows clearly, and he leaves space to make sure that folks can have and embrace that moment and so forth, which is great. And yeah, yeah. And so, like I said, people celebrate in different ways, but I want to kind of make sure I do my piece as well because we all have different skill sets and so forth. So I wanted to do something different this time around. And speaking of that, though, I want to finish off by featuring some, or at least a couple Guyana's like folk song. Yeah. All right. So folks, I personally would like to thank you. I really appreciate you joining here, the Dr. Narine Show. Please remember to tune in to us again next time. I hope that you take some time to reflect based on what we talked about in terms of the usage when it comes to social media and how we can use it towards our advantage and not necessarily allowing it to take control of us. Because once we use it accordingly, it is a beautiful thing, right? Because we live in a digital world, but at the same time, we want to make sure that it's not controlling us. And that can be hard, especially for young people. I see it all the time. That's what studies showing as well too. But anyways, I thank you again. I hope that you enjoy the rest of your day. And I'm gonna leave you now with this beautiful folk song, a Guyanese song. Obviously, as we mark and are celebrating the Guyana independence 60th anniversary, that is.
Come out the 14 and into 15, I make a blessing song. Come out the 14 and into 15, I make a blessing song. Lily gal, lily gal, lily gal, lily gal, what make a blessing song. Lily gal, lily gal, lily gal, lily gal, what make a blessing song. I make money down and a man hold me hand and I make a blessing song. I make money down and a man hold me hand and I make a blessing song. Stupid carry. Left shame mommy, for go marry, for one gold ring, stupid gold ring, stupid lily gal, lily gal, lily gal, lily gal, what make you praise me so? Lily gal, lily gal, lily gal, lily gal, what make you praise me so? This make a present, that make a present, this make a present so. This make a present, that make a present, this make a present so. Lily gal, lily gal, lily gal, lily gal, what make you praise him so? Lily gal, lily gal, lily gal, lily gal, what make you praise him so? He make a present, she make a present, you make a present so. He make a present, she make a present, you make a present more. Lily gal, lily gal, lily gal, lily gal, what make you praise him so? Lily gal, lily gal, lily gal, lily gal, what make you praise him so? Lily gal, lily gal, lily gal,
All right. So I will end it there now, folks. So thank you again for watching.